Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today, we are joined by Caleb, a design and sales engineer on the Microsoft Cloud team at TD SYNNEX. He will be demonstrating how to strengthen your security posture and ensure that your data stays secure and compliant. So I'm going to throw it over to Caleb for our presentation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the intro there, Ariel. Yeah, so I'm Caleb. I work on the Microsoft Cloud engineering team over at TD SYNNEX, and we really just handle everything technical for Microsoft Cloud, right? So Microsoft Teams, right? Outlook, a lot of security as well. I personally focus on Defender and Purview, which is what we will be talking about today. But really, today's session is just a sort of a higher level. We will get into the weeds a little bit, just a little bit, but mostly high level of how you can protect your business, right? Mainly SMB businesses. So we'll talk about, first of all, what are the key security challenges for small and medium businesses, right? Because there are, as we know, there are many challenges that are specific to SMBs, right? There's not really a one-on-one correlation with SMBs and enterprises for sure. And talk a little bit about how Microsoft security can help. If we have time, we'll do a demo. So a very quick demo of how Microsoft security works. So we'll show it in action, and then we'll have our recap and next steps as always. So before we go ahead and get started, let's go ahead and do some intros real quick. So I'm not going to make you guys do the whole, name, role, expectations thing, but just, drop in the chat where you're from, where you're coming in from, and then, maybe one or two things that you are looking forward to in the in this event. So if you're trying to learn more about, Microsoft Defender, put that in the chat. If you are excited for the giveaway that we have going on, put that in chat as well. So just let us know. And Bob, put me in chat here, based out of Greenville, South Carolina. And let's see here. And that'll work. All right, let's go ahead and dive into it. So we have a couple of numbers here in the on the slide, right? And I'll bring your attention to the first one. So 1 in 5 security, data security incidents, right, happen because of insiders. So this is pretty huge. Now you think 1 in 5, it's not that many, but it's actually a good amount, right? 20%. And the biggest issue with these insider data risks, right, is because you don't really see them coming, right? We always think, we're worrying about the hackers, right? The Russian or state-sponsored hackers trying to break into our environment, but we don't really think about the internal risk, right? So that's sort of something that people don't really think about. And then the another stat that's pretty big is the median time for users to fall for phishing emails. So that is 60 seconds. I know our IT team sends out these phishing email tests all the time, and every single time, right, people fall for them without fail. People click on them, they enter their credentials because these tests look believable, right? Because they're meant to replicate the real thing. And the scariest stat here is that most of these cyber breaches, right, they don't just affect the enterprise businesses, right? They affect the SMB businesses as well. 46% of medium-sized businesses experienced cybercrime in the past year. This cost is just gonna, the cost really stacks up, right? $1.5 billion by 2025. So I'm sure it's even a higher number now, as we go through 2026. But, it's just an extremely high number, of resources that are dedicated to remediating these attacks, right? So what are the challenges for SMBs specifically? We go into the news every day, right? We hear, okay, Facebook got a breach, right? LinkedIn got, their data leak and all of that. but no one really ever, talks about small and medium businesses getting breached, right? Because I mean that, not to say they're insignificant, but you know, they don't generate as many clicks. It's not as big as Google getting hacked, right? But the problem is the majority of the breaches actually affect SMB customers, and that's really because attackers go for the easier targets, right? Small medium businesses, we don't have millions of dollars in the IT and security budget to secure our environment, right? The large organizations, they'll lose like probably millions of dollars for every breach, right? And they can just kind of absorb the cost and keep on chugging, right? For SMBs, you could suffer a breach and it could cost you $500,000. That could be might as well be a business ender, right? So it's pretty challenging for small medium businesses to be able to tackle this problem. Yeah, that's what we'll be talking about today. And here's the scariest stat. So small businesses are 4 times more likely to be a victim of a cybersecurity breach than large enterprises. And this is just the nature of it, right? They have less security. The criminals and hackers try to go for the smaller guys because it's an easier target, right? And I want you to kind of look at this number here. So we got 99% of SMB breaches were financially motivated, with external actors responsible for 98% of attacks. So they're just after it for the money. It's kind of tough, but that's the reality of it. And they use, they aren't afraid to use all types of nasty technology. We have a bunch of hackers on our team, white hat hackers, of course. But some of them have come from a gray hat and even black hat background. And, it's scary the stuff they tell you of the nasty ransomware that the hackers will use to try to extort money from businesses. And 88% of breaches in SMBs involve ransomware. So that's more than double the rate of ransomware used in larger organizations. So it's pretty scary there. And honestly, all that is pretty terrifying. But the main thing that always strikes out to me as a security person is the amount of time it takes to get hacked, right? So 72 minutes. That is currently the amount of time for an attacker to move laterally after a user clicks a phishing link. So what does that mean, right? Laterally, right? It's a weird term. What this means is if I am logged into Outlook, right, and then someone sends me an email saying, hey, click here for free gift cards, right? And I click it. The moment I click that, right, around 72 minutes later, that person has access to my device. They have moved laterally, so that means they have broken into my device and then moved to my coworker's device, right, or maybe a server, maybe another endpoint, right, a mobile device, any of those things, and from there it can just keep spreading, right, and they can get to your really high value targets. And another thing that's honestly kind of new, it really started emerging back in 2024, and then now it's really picking up steam, is the rise of generative AI in attacks. So I'm in Redmond this week talking with Microsoft engineers about the threatscape, and then what's the future of cybersecurity. And the crazy thing now is 32% of all attacks involve generative AI. So these hackers, they don't even using their own time to hack you, right? They're just running these scripts, running these AIs to go out there, probe for weak organizations, and then attack, right? So you can't really hide by just staying obscure anymore, right? Because the AI is just so prevalent. And a couple of areas here to look at. As you all know, right? AI is a big thing now. We got Gemini, Copilot, Anthropic, Claude, you name it, right? Everyone is using some kind of large language model of some sort. And then we have our standard Office apps, right? So your Office apps, right? Messaging, email, file sharing. But the point is, these all introduce attack paths, right, and attack vectors for bad actors, right? So one of the biggest things they talked about here in our meeting with Microsoft was prompt injection, right? So you may think, oh, I'm not really leaking any data outside, but if you have an AI model, right, that has access to your internal, right, anyone has access to that model, technically can break into your data storage there, and they could trick the AI. There's a whole art of prompt injection, sort of similar to a SQL injection. If any of you guys have played with that in the past, but it's scary stuff. That's the main point there. So protecting data is getting harder, right? It's not getting any simpler, unfortunately. And even the regulations, right? That's starting to evolve as well. So, when we just, in 2022, 2023, when AI was just sort of a new thing, there weren't a lot of regulations surrounding it, right? Now it's, 34 years later, lots of new regulations are being written, new laws, new user data protection, regulations coming out. And it's tough to wrap your head around, right? So lots of new things to keep in mind here. And what all this leads to is just inefficiencies, right? So we had to buy all these different tools. We'll buy like an endpoint detection tool, right? And email security tool, and then maybe a compliance tool over here. Put that all together, and technically could work, but now we are getting siloed tools, right? So these tools do not have visibility into your entire system. You have gaps between those tools, right? You have redundant alerts. You have false positives. That's like the false positives, by the way, is like the biggest issue for security teams, because you have a couple engineers working, or SOC analysts working on that, and they get overwhelmed, right? Because the majority of alerts that they're getting is just false positives, and that kind of makes you numb to those. And then when an actual attack does occur, you're not really expecting it, right? So lots of these, and the worst part is paying money for stuff that you won't completely use as well. So what's the solution, right? So we have really two ideas here. Number one is automating your security, and then number two is protecting your data. So automating your security is more on the Defender side, and then protecting your data is more on the Microsoft Purview side. And then we'll talk about both of those. So if you haven't, talked about those a lot before, no worries. We'll spend a lot of time talking about that today. So the main, I guess, selling point of Microsoft security is what they call end-to-end protection. And what it is, end-to-end protection, right? It's probably one of the biggest security buzzwords out there, right? Everyone wants end-to-end, but what is it actually? So end-to-end means that you have protection from your devices, right, to your identities. So that's your accounts, right? So your Entra accounts, right? And then you have protection in your emails. You have protection for your data at rest. So your data in your OneDrive, in your SharePoint, right? That data is getting protected from people sending it out, from people breaking in. That is what it means when they say security is end to end. And go ahead and X here. And Microsoft's main solution for this is the Microsoft 365 Business Premium license. You guys might have heard of it before, but it covers, well, first of all, your meat and potatoes. So Microsoft 365 desktop apps, right? Got to have that. Microsoft Teams. And then we also have our device management, Microsoft Intune, our Microsoft Entra, to allow people to have accounts, and then sign in, security, MFA, and then all the other security tools like Defender for Endpoint, and then Microsoft Purview for data security as well. And all of this ends up saving you money. So you have everything bundled in one, right? That we'll show the math later towards the end of the presentation, but it does grant you a significant amount of savings versus multiple security solutions there. All right, so let me go ahead and move on to this slide here. And so Business Premium, that's been around for a while now. And the new stuff that they announced just a couple months ago at Microsoft Ignite was the Defender Suite and the Purview Suite. Let's see here. Just checking questions in the chat. Matt asked about what about on the government license side? Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of our customers are from government as well, GCC. You have access to practically the same licensing. If you have questions, you can reach out to CIT later. But I mean, Business Premium is available for them. Defender, is available for them as well. So great question. But with the Business Premium, right? So you have Business Premium, and then you have these new suites. So, essentially, right, the biggest complaint Microsoft had regarding security was, at least from SMBs, right, was Business Premium is great, right? It's very good, great, good value, right? It's like $20 something, $22 MSRP versus the $57 that the enterprise people have to pay, right? But the Business Premium customers didn't have the same level of protection that the enterprise people did, right? Because I mean Microsoft did. I don't know how they did it, but they pulled some strings and they managed to introduce these suites here that basically give you the enterprise level protection if you add these licenses onto the Business Premium. And then we'll talk more about what that entails there. But that allows you to automate investigations, right? Which saves you time, right? And then keeps you better protected as well, because your analyst probably isn't awake at 3 a.m. at night, right, to help protect your organization. Even though they may be on call, their response time probably is pretty limited as well. So definitely utilize the automated investigation and from both Defender and the Purview side as well. So let's talk about each of the products here, because we stay pretty high level. Let's dive into each of the areas that Defender and Purview can protect. So first of all, we have identity protection. So identity protection, right? Something as simple as an attacker steals a user's password and then tries to log in from an unusual location, right? This happens all the time. Even I think I've had this happen to me as well. And not, someone tries to log in, right? They find your email and they keep prompting your phone for MFA. So you'll see your phone pop up, right? It's gonna say, hey, were you the one who wanted to, did you just want to log in a couple of minutes ago, right? And obviously it wasn't me, because I wasn't even working at the time. It was probably over the weekend. And I've had multiple coworkers who've had the same issue as well. So this real solution to this, right, is conditional access policies. And what this is it's just smarter security. So it detects things like where the sign-in is coming from. So, the location, right? So if I am based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm getting a sign-in from China at 3 a.m., right? It's pretty unlikely that I flew over there and then try to sign in that quickly, right? Or maybe I sign in from an untrusted network, right? Or maybe a new device, right? All of these things, conditional access is able to take those signals in, and then it does some complex calculations to determine whether or not the sign-in is legit or not. And then obviously it will double check with you to make sure. But conditional access really is, in my opinion, the future of security. Obviously, MFA is the bare minimum here, right? Always enable MFA. I think I just read a stat just the other day again, and MFA still is the number one line of defense for sign-in protection. So I think it protects 99.8% of attacks. So it's pretty big, right? So you do just one thing, just enable MFA, and then you want to take it a step further and introduce smarter security, then look into conditional access there. We have email protection as well. So email protection, I'm sure many of you have had experiences with safe links and safe attachments, right? You are in Microsoft Outlook. And then, when you click on an email, it kind of takes a little while to load. And then you click on one of the links and it shows, scanning the link or whatnot. That is safe links and safe attachments at play. And that is honestly one of the biggest advancements we've had in email security within the past couple of years. Just because, email phishing links were the number one cause of breaches, right? So being able to scan those links every time and then detect whether there's malware embedded inside of your email is pretty crucial. So that's another way that the business premium protects you there. This is big as well. So, maybe, the threat didn't come through email, right? Maybe the user went on some website and then downloaded a sketchy executable file right to their computer, right? This happens more often than you would think. But how do we protect the device at the device level, right? So to keep the malware or virus from spreading on the device, we turn to EDR, endpoint detection and response. And I'll probably have time to demo this in a second as well. But this, essentially what this is it allows you, or it allows Defender or Purview to sit on your device and then protect things like against things like running malware on your device. It even protects you from uploading the files, maybe sensitive confidential files from your device to maybe a personal Google Drive, right? So that's pretty cool. I'll hopefully be able to demo that to you guys in a bit. We have cloud app security as well. So cloud app security is for SaaS apps, right? So this will include more things than most people would think about. So, for example, right, Facebook would count as a cloud app, right? Minecraft would count as a cloud app as well. So there are, as you can tell by now, right, there are thousands and thousands of cloud apps out there. And, as an organization, you need to be able to manage them all. What do we want the employees to be able to have access to, right? Which do we, maybe some of them, need access to Microsoft's, I don't know, some kind of Microsoft's Excel for finance purposes, right? And some of them don't, right? I've had customers who've had that request before. So you want to be able to control that. And the Defender for cloud apps here is the key. All right, moving on to data security. So this is actually my personal favorite because this is what I specialize in on my team. And this is essentially protecting your organization, not from the outside threats, but from your own people. So I know it sounds a little weird at first, but that's one of the biggest challenges we see today. Because when we have threats from the inside, right? Yes, it may be a malicious employee, right? Maybe some spy from North Korea trying to exfiltrate our data, right? But a lot of times it's just, regular people like you and me who are trying to get work done, right? And then we accidentally, leak a file with credit card information or customer information out there when we really didn't mean to, right? So I think data security is the best way to protect our employees and then our organizations as well. So very excited about this. I'll see if I can do a quick demo for that as well. All right, so moving on here. Do a quick comparison of Defender Suite and Purview Suite. We've talked about a lot, right? So Defender Suite essentially is protection against the outside world, right? So protecting against people signing into your organization, protecting against, bad emails, malicious emails, protecting against virus and malware on your computers, right? And then protecting the cloud apps in your environment. Versus Purview, which is protecting the data that's at rest inside of your environment and making sure that any of that sensitive data does not accidentally get leaked outside of your organization. So it's kind of those two pillars there. And you can purchase these separately, or you can purchase these all of it in one. You can save even more money there. We'll talk more about the pricing at the end. But yeah, all of this, right, to hammer down these 4 points, right? So we want to be able to predict attacks before they happen, because as the defenders, we are kind of fighting a losing game, because the attackers, they have time to scope out our organization, right, to do their open source intelligence, find out what are our weak spots. They can basically generate a map of your organization by just doing, active probing. They have all the time in the world to, plan out their attack. Versus us, when we get that alert at 4 a.m. in the morning, right? Boom, now we only have a couple of minutes and, now it's only a couple of hours to, get everything under control, lock down, all of those things. So we want to be able to predict attacks before they happen and detect them. And then, as much as we can, utilize the automated response and investigations to help with that, so that by the time our analysts come in, they have much less work to do. The fire is not quite as big to put out, and we always work to continually make this sort of this cycle better, right? So we find out what we learned, and then we apply it to the next attack. So back to the end-to-end security platform here. They're just hashing out again: identity, device security, SaaS security. Another little aside here is Microsoft Sentinel, and some of you might have heard it before. It's always been more on the enterprise side of things, but now they're trying to bring it more to the SMB side as well. So some of our very security conscious customers have used it. But as of right now, they are actually moving Microsoft Sentinel into the Defender portal itself. So if you've ever poked around in the Defender portal, you will now see Microsoft Sentinel. And then it's all part of Microsoft's plan on consolidating all of the security stuff in one place versus, they used to have, Microsoft Sentinel in one portal. You have your email security in another portal, right? And your, ID in another portal. Now those portals, some of those still exist, but they're really trying to push that single pane of glass view, all the security stuff in one place there. And they have a couple of these plans that they have, right? You don't need to memorize these. As always, we'll send out the deck, but these are the plans that are associated with each, and all of these can be replaced by the suites that I mentioned earlier. And I'd recommend that you go for the suites over these plans here, because these are pretty expensive on their own if you don't bundle them into the suite. All right, so changing gears a little bit, talking about Microsoft Purview, which is the area that I focus on. They have really three main pillars inside Microsoft Purview, right? Because Microsoft Purview, just like Defender, is a whole family of products. So, it's not just like, I buy Defender or I buy Microsoft Purview, and, it's not just one singular tool, right? There's actually multiple tools, and they all fall under different categories. So three main pillars: we have data security, data compliance, and data governance. So, let's talk about data governance first. So that is sort of the odd one out. This is more on the Azure side. They actually used to call this Azure Purview. And this is for if you have Azure file shares, right, blob storage, and you want to be able to manage that data and protect that data. That's going to be data governance. For today, we're mainly going to talk about data security and data compliance, because that's what really applies to the that most of SMBs, right, and then our Microsoft 365 environments. So data security is making sure that our data stays protected while it is at rest. And then also, when people are sending emails, right, you want to make sure people aren't accidentally leaking sensitive information out there, right? And we'll show that via the data loss prevention policies there. We'll look at insider risk management as well. Sensitivity labels, if you guys have heard of that. And then we have data compliance as well. So data compliance would include things like communication compliance. So monitoring, Teams chats, right? Monitoring emails, right? To make sure people aren't saying anything that is against company policy, right? And it could be looking for, inappropriate language, right? Any illegal or possibly, unethical practices happening inside your organization. That's the name of the game there for data compliance. And then a little bit about data lifecycle management as well. So data lifecycle management is managing your data and preventing data sprawl, right? Because data sprawl is one of the, honestly, one of the larger problems we have with SMBs today, is because we just don't have enough storage, right? And then every day we, pile on more and more data new emails, new files, and it just keeps growing. So we need to find a way to kind of limit that, right? And then delete what we don't need and keep what we do need. And that's really the whole idea of data lifecycle management there. Let's see here. Yep, and this is just diving into that a bit more. Honestly, I don't have enough time to go into all of these, but we do offer, we have a whole team of engineers who can talk about this. So if you ever want to see demos of each of these, feel free to reach out. We have classes on these as well. But essentially, right, if all of that was overwhelming, which I know it was, right, because it was a lot of information, all you need to know is these are the new suites for Business Premium. So you have your regular old Business Premium, and then you have your Defender suite, you have your Purview suite, and then you have your Defender and Purview suite bundled together. And I think its MSRP is rough MSRP is $10 per user per month for the Defender suite, $10 for the Purview suite, and $15 for both combined. And they did some of the math here that they'll show in a second, and it's quite a good deal, to be completely honest with you. I know the text on this slide is super small, so I can barely read it from my screen here, but it's for you guys to check out later when we send out the PowerPoint slides. But this details all the features that you have in each of the suites, versus Business Premium on the left of there. All right. So let's take a look at how much money you'll actually save using the Defender suites, right? So if you are running Microsoft Business Premium, and then you're adding on all of these other additional licenses on the left-hand side, Defender for Endpoint P2, Defender for Office 365 P2, Identity Cloud Apps, you name it, right? That is going to all add up to roughly $28 a month of just additional stuff. And that's on top of your Business Premium already, versus, the new Defender suite that they rolled out. That's going to be $10 a month. So, it's like a third of the price, right? Pretty insane cost savings there. And then if you want to look at the specific features that are included, check this matrix out. Again, lots of information compacted into a very small table there. But we got all the features on the Defender side here, and you got Business Premium, which is very solid in its own right. And then we got Business Standard there, which is what a lot of our customers are running. Talking about the Purview suite, you save a good amount as well. Not quite as much as the Defender suite, because honestly the Purview stuff is kind of expensive to run, right? Because you're ingesting the data, you're protecting it and labeling it. But you still save a good amount here. $19 versus $10 on the Microsoft Purview suite. So it's about 47% cost saving per license, and you get the same features as with the E5. Top of the line enterprise license there. More features here that you can look at. And if you do have questions about each of these, feel free to reach out to CEIT or any of us later. And then the real good deal here is the combined bundle, in my opinion. So, the first time I've showed this to one of our customers, he was like, what's the catch? Because he actually couldn't believe it, because we have $47, right? With and then $47 worth of value here, right, for $15. And then if you are familiar with like the enterprise licensing, right, I think those guys have to pay like, I wanted to say like 60 something dollars per user per month just for the security. So it's a crazy high amount of money. Some of our customers do use that just because they need to, right? They need that, they have very large organizations, or they have just advanced security needs. But now you get all those security features in the top of the line E5 for a fraction of the price. So I think it's a pretty good deal. I was actually pretty proud of Microsoft for putting this out, because I know everyone likes to dump on them for kind of pinching pennies and all of that, but this is pretty generous of them to allow the small medium businesses to get a much nicer discount compared to the enterprise. But yeah, another slide here, kind of showing it off, how much you'll save in total. And let's see here. We will go ahead and move on to, yeah, just a recap slide. And I think I managed to get through all that. Okay, awesome. So, managed to get us a good amount of time here to do our demos. So I'll open the floor up to questions right now while I set up the demo. And if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or come off mute. And myself or any of the other CIT folks here will be happy to answer.
Hi, Caleb. It's Ariel. I wanted to highlight a question in the Q&A as you're getting your demo ready. Paul asks, how can SMBs use automation with Defender and Purview to build a security by default environment that scales if or when the business grows?
Yeah, great question, Paul. So security by default, right? That's one of the core pillars of Microsoft security now. So for example, if you buy like Microsoft Defender, right? They'll have these policies, default policies put in place that protect your organization. So for example, email security, right? Safe links, safe attachments, that's going to be enabled by default. Now, to squeeze all the juice out of the license, so to speak, you will need to go in there and configure some of the features, right? And I think that's where CIT can come in and help. But for a lot of the licenses, right, it really is plug and play. So you buy it and then the security defaults is going to be activated for you. But again, to maximize it, right, definitely requires some work there. And then continually pruning and then improving your policies as your organization grows. Great question.
Thanks. We did have another quick question come in, and then I'll let you jump into your demo. Joe is asking, can you explain what licenses would be needed for Microsoft 365 E3 compared to Microsoft 365 E5?
So let's see if I understand that correctly. So E3 is its own license, right? You have E5, which is another enterprise as well. So as far as the enterprise is concerned, you just buy one license, right? If you're talking about how we can get parity with our business premium to the enterprise, I think that's what you're referring to. So all of the stuff, let me go back here. So all of the stuff we talked about today, right? If you buy the Defender Purview suite, you will have parity with the full E5 license. If you want the E3 features, which are less, right? Really, all you need is the business premium. Business premium actually offers the same amount of security as the E3, even more. They include Defender for Office. I think it's 365 Plan 1. So if you want parity with E3, you go for business premium. If you want, the E5 stuff, you go with the suite. So great question. Oh, another question in the chat. Does Microsoft have roadmaps, for lack of a better word, for SMBs who want to take a step-by-step approach to minimize disruption to businesses? Let's see here. Yeah, I'm sure I don't think they call them roadmaps, but I think I know what you're talking about. Sort of like an adoption kit, right? That walks you through the whole business process for leaders and technical folks and all of that. Yes, they do have it. I don't have it on my desktop to upload to the chat right now, but let me grab a hold of that and I'll hand it over to Ariel or any of the folks over at CIT, and then we'll make sure to send that out in the follow-up email. But great question. All right. Good questions all around. Feel free to ask more questions if you need, if anything pops up, but let me go ahead and get my screen share going here. This allow. And all right. So it should be showing the Microsoft Purview page right now. If you guys can see it, if you can't, just, holler at me and let me know there. Okay, so we are in Microsoft Purview. This is my absolute favorite place to be in the Microsoft admin portals. There's a million other places as well, but this is just has I spent a lot of time working with. So this is Microsoft Purview data loss prevention, right? This is what they call the meat and potatoes of data security. So you have, in data security, you have your sensitivity labels where you can tag different items in your organization, right? And then you also have these data loss prevention policies, which are the real filters that, so they'll actively filter out the actions within your environment, right? So for example, let me go hop over here. So we can block things like, let's see here. Let's see. You got, so for example, removable media groups, right? Fancy word for USB thumb drives, right? You can control the amount of data that goes onto that USB device group, right? So if you don't trust, people plugging in USB thumb drives and, exfiltrating, or maybe they're just moving it, right? But that's the technical term. They're exfiltrating data from their personal or their work device to their thumb drives. You can block that as well. You can block printers, you can block servers, all these things. You can block stuff that's sent out via email, right? So the demo I'm going to show you to you guys today is one that I've actually spent a lot of time working with a customer on. So one of our customers, they approached me and they said they had a very, sort of unique business need. So they needed to block all file uploads of any sort to all websites except their company website, right? And I think they had this requirement due to just the industry that they were in, right? They needed to block and be especially stringent with their data security requirements there. So we went through the portal, quickly figured out, okay, DLP policies would be the best option for this. And we went ahead and created one. So let me go ahead and walk you through the policy that we created. Try not to spend too much time in the weeds here, but I think it is important to show you how it works in the back end, and then we'll show you it in action. So first things first, we go in, right? And you can see all the stuff that we can protect here in the back end, right? So we can protect Exchange email, right? That's Outlook. And we have SharePoint sites, right? You have OneDrive accounts, you have Teams chat and channel messages, devices, instances, even on-prem repos. So for our example today, I just want to block stuff at the device level. So let's say people have, sensitive information on their MacBook or on their Windows device, right? I want to be able to block that, prevent people from uploading it to places that they shouldn't be uploading it to. So here is the rule that I set up here. Pretty straightforward, but I just sort of want a dumb policy that blocks everything, right? So I just selected all the conditions here. Content is not labeled, content cannot be scanned, and then all types of file types, and files larger than 10 kilobytes here. And then we, set up the action to notify users, that their message or that their upload was blocked, right? Because nothing is more annoying than, you're trying to upload a file to Google Drive, right? And it's just soft blocking you in the background, and then you don't know what's going on, right? So always, notify your users to keep the help desk tickets down there, and then we'll send alerts to the administrators. Of course, up here in the queue, and then your admins can go in and view all of that. But if you want to take a look at it here, this is how we set that up. I know it's a lot, but just want to get you a quick glimpse into the back end there. So I'll click next, and then we have a policy mode here. I just went ahead and turned it on. For you guys, since you don't have, you're most likely testing. If you have a sandbox environment, by all means, turn it on immediately. If you don't, run it in simulation mode first, because like I think one of the questions we had was, how do I prevent business disruption when rolling out these policies, right? And that is a big thing, because we've had people here at the enterprise level at TD SYNNEX who have accidentally rolled out, policies that blocked whole business processes from happening. And that was not a good time for everyone all around. So make sure you run it in simulation mode first, see what's triggering the policy, And then as you refine it, then maybe roll it out later. So we'll go ahead and move over here. So I went ahead and published that policy. And over here in the browser and domain restrictions, I want to allow only my company website to receive data, right? So here I just picked just a random PDF website online, smallpdf.com, as our allowed website there. So we'll put that in. I'll go ahead and switch over to our VM. So this is our Windows 365 virtual machine here. And I have the small PDF website. So this is our simulated corporate website on this side. And then we have our Google Drive here. So this is just my personal Google Drive, simulating an employee, logged in. Maybe they're trying to upload some stuff to their personal drive for recreational purposes or possibly for malicious purposes, right? Trying to steal data. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and try our file upload here. So I'll go ahead and click new file upload to our drive here. I'll go ahead and select this. This is from downloads, from a downloads file right on my PC there. And I'll go ahead and click open, and boom, we had, the policy caught it in a split second, right? So your organization protected the file you're trying to upload. You're about to upload a file containing sensitive information to a location that's not approved by your organization. To continue, you'll need to override the restriction. And then we have our whole text box here for our business justification. So this appeared with the override option because I set it to allow that. Depending on your organization, you might want to allow that. All of these justifications will roll up to the admin, who will then determine whether it was a valid override or not. Or you can just disable this. You can just straight up block it and say, hey, you can't do this. Reach out to your admin for, help or further information there as well. But that is the blocking at work there. If I hop over to smallpdf.com, which is our simulated corporate website, I choose the file here. I choose the exact same file, click open, and boom, we upload no issues whatsoever, right? Because it was on the whitelist of allowed websites there. So, just one real world example there that I've found. And honestly, it worked out beautifully for our customer there, and they're pretty happy in the end. So just wanted to show that off. So I think we are at 10:47 here. Let me go ahead and close this out for you guys.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Caleb. I do see some questions coming in to the chat. So if you have any questions, definitely send those in the chat, or I'm watching the Q&A. Paul is asking, how can Purview's data lifecycle management help SMBs, especially those with limited staff, automatically organize data to reduce risk and also meet compliance requirements?
Yeah, great question. So data lifecycle management, right? You can always reach out to me later, but there is you can set up policies, right? And labels that automatically look for characteristics within your environment. So for example, you have a file that is 7 years old, right? Or 10 or 12 years old, right? You can have your policy set up where it looks for files that are, more than 12 years old, that aren't, associated or created by the finance team, right? And then if that file meets those requirements, they'll automatically be tagged as, archive or to be deleted, right? So you can, once you have those policies set up, it will do the work for you. And then, that saves you a lot of headache there. So great question.
If you have any questions, feel free to send them out. Otherwise, thank you so much, Caleb, for joining us today.
Thank you guys so much for your attention, and really learning a lot from you guys.